Today in the church, we're reading from the Acts of the Apostles, and St. Paul and Silas were traveling and proclaiming the gospel. And while they were doing these things, there was this woman who was a fortune teller, and she was shouting at them, "These people are slaves of the Most High God, who proclaim to you a way of salvation." Sometimes people think this way about the Catholic Church today, and they're oblivious to the reality and the real road to salvation. In one sense, they are still under some kind of demonic dominion and have not come to know the Savior of the world yet. But St. Paul, after days of being annoyed with this woman, told the demonic spirit to get out of her, and it left. And the owner realized this, and he realized that his profit was at a loss, so he seized them and had them placed in jail by Roman rule. But what is more unique about this story, besides this demonic reality fleeing the woman, was that when they were thrown in jail, they kept praying and singing hymns. It did not dampen their love for Christ and their faith. Their devotion to God was steadfast in good times and bad times. And following Christ, they realized on their faith journey they were really always in union with God in all circumstances. And then there was this earthquake. And natural disasters usually shake people who have shaky belief systems which lack solid ground. This is why the guard, after his failure by sleeping on duty, was about to kill himself. He thought by his own power he could save himself or fulfilling his duty to Rome and the gods. And in his pride he could not see his own faults and failures and his real need to be saved by Christ, until his whole world was shaken to its very foundations, the very foundations which were empty and hollow, the very foundations that were without Christ, the rock. For in his failure he turned inward and came up against his own weakness and nothingness. Instead of turning outward to Christ, to reach out in prayers and hymns, to reach out to Christ in the sacraments, who saves man in his very failure with his marvelous and merciful light. Here we notice the church being the vehicle and instrument of Christ's salvation as Paul and Silas led the man to be baptized. In other words, to leave all the empty voices of the world that have no saving power and begin to turn toward Christ, whose very voice and words touch the soul of man with joy and divine love. For it is the voice of the Savior of the world.